So as we go through, let me take you for the second wave, which is all about shifting our thinking from reading things to moving things. This wave number 2 is called The World is Watching. And it's about the fact that we are seeing a sea change in the way that we ourselves are looking at all this information. Have a look at this. YouTube has doubled, tripled in value in the last year, even though it's already, by internet standards, an old company. eBay has done the same because their mobile strategy has meant that the number of people actually using them has transformed. As you can see here, it says here in terms of the pace of change, that according to YouTube statistics, more video is uploaded in 1 month than the 3 major networks in the US have generated in 60 years. Over 3 billion hours of video is watched per month. Right? This is unbelievable, the shift. By mobile access, or which already gets over 600 million views a day, we're going to see, again, a quadrupling taking place. This is something where if you were to take the total information in the world up until the 1960s, I think it was until like 1964 or so, the total information in the world was the equivalent of what is called 5 exabytes, right? Now you say, well, what's an exabyte? Well, okay, think of a byte. 1 byte is the 1 character, like A is a character. That's a byte, right? And so if you want to basically post something on the internet, which is like fast, right? That's 4 words, that's 4 bytes. So then you're saying, well, I want more bytes than that. And so you keep on going until eventually you get to 1 billion bytes. That's a lot of words, and that's basically 1 gigabyte. So an exabyte is 1 billion billions, is that much. And the entire information in the world up until the 1960s was 5 exabytes that had ever been created, ever. By last year, 2012, there were 5 exabytes being uploaded to the internet every 3 days. By the end of this year, there will be 5 exabytes uploaded every 15 minutes. That's the pace of change of what's been happening in terms of information. We're not reading them, we're watching them. All of this is going to video, and eventually it will go to 3D virtual worlds where we'll just inhabit the internet. But at this point, that's what's taking place. Everything's going to video. There is now already over 70%, I'll say that again, 70% of all of all internet traffic is moving pictures. Over 70% is not the written word. Do you remember there was a time when we used to read the TV? I mean, there was something called teletext. Remember in the 1970s and 1980s, you'd turn on the TV and you'd flick through like the latest news. Or if you ever did any like Open University on BBC or something, and you kind of read it. Something. And it's funny, like all of us, we have like dream boards. I every year create a dream board with my family, with my wife Renata, our 3 kids. We've been doing this for many years. We have something called Magic Time, which happens once a month, where we get together and we just kind of dream. We look at life and we make magic, and it keeps our family together. All my kids are teenagers now, but we still every single month without fail, no matter what parties they've got on, or what's happening, they say it's magic time, can't do anything, gotta meet the family. They show up, and once a year we create a dream board where we all put all our dreams on it. And I've had on my dream board, on this dream board, I've been putting up a picture of a guitar for about 4 or 5 years because I always wanted to play the guitar. And I gave myself the excuse that the reason that I couldn't was living in Bali, there aren't enough guitar tutors for me to choose from, so I just didn't have the right help. So the other day, I come down and my daughter is there and she's playing the guitar. And she's awesome. It's like, I never knew she could play the guitar. And she's there playing away. I'm like, oh my God, when did you learn to play the guitar? She goes, YouTube. You can learn anything on YouTube nowadays. And so if they have a question on something, including on anything to do with their subjects at school, they'll go straight to YouTube, they'll find it, they'll find a 3-minute video, they'll watch it, and they'll get it, and then off they go again. Right? And so because the new generation is doing that, we've got to realize, can we already express or explain our business or our product in 3 minutes on a video? Even before you've actually even made the video, could you do that? If you had to write a script of your business or a script of your life, which was going to show up in 3 minutes, what would you put in there? What's most important? And when you do that, you suddenly find that it's not what you say, it's what you don't say, which creates the clarity of your story. And when you've got a big page for a website, it's difficult to do that. So this is something which, again, what would be your question you would put down of how you want to articulate who you are, and maybe you want to even go and create that video. Here is online advertising in Australia. This one just came out, 7th of March. Hits 3.3 billion. And as you can see here, 55% increase quarter on quarter, as a result of mobile advertising as well. So all of this is shifting the way we're looking at things. Here's the actual overall traffic that's now showing up. This is Cisco's forecast, where you can see just in the next 5 years, we are going up by an exponential amount from where we are today. 13-fold increase in mobile internet data. And then here, final thing is that it isn't just about mobile, it's about how we in the future won't even have tablets. If you've seen Google Glass, which are the glasses that you wear, there's no keyboard, you just talk and these are going to be commercially available this year. Which means by the end of this year, who knows, your kid might actually be wearing one of these and they'll be talking to you, and while you're talking to them, they're actually doing something entirely different on the internet, which you have no idea about and probably shouldn't know about. So this is how life is changing right now. And same thing as the first wave, you don't have to go and get all technical on this. There are now a whole series of different apps and programs. Animoto is one where it just it's so easy for you to create your own videos. You can take EasyVid, which is another one, where it just immediately uploads it onto YouTube, but it gives you all the editing and everything. It's as simple as using a Word document, but now you've got moving pictures. Even more so, if you don't even want to do any of that, go get something like ScreenFlow, or go get something like Screener, which will record your laptop, what you're showing on screen. Guaranteed that if you want people to see what you want them to see on the website, you'll do a whole lot better just turning on this ScreenFlow and then basically just bringing your homepage up and just talking into your computer and say, welcome to our homepage, what you'll find on that we offer is, and then click through onto different pages and just have that as a video for a couple of minutes on your homepage, explaining what you do, using exactly what people could find themselves. But I guarantee, given that over 70% of people that come to a homepage bounce straight away, they don't even look at anything else, just having a video, you'll have more people know more about your website and all that effort you put in by them watching the video of your site than you would by them actually trying to click through from one thing to another. So I'm going as basic as possible for those who are not already investing in this, because I don't want anyone having the excuse that, yeah, I get I should be on mobile and I get I should be in video, but it can wait another year because I've got to find the team, and all of that excuse. By the time you're a year down the road, you're already way beyond where all of your competitors are. So don't wait for it. Make sure you say, if I was to do this and I was to do it this month, what could be the simplest, easiest way for me to put 10 minutes aside and just get it done, and you'll see the results straight away. I'll give you a couple of really quick examples of this so you can get a sense of this. Here's somebody called Scott Picken. Scott is one of my mentoring clients. So I put a lot of time and effort into mentoring nowadays because it's where I see great results when people follow through. Scott's based in South Africa. And when I met Scott, his main business, he had $1 million business, or did have one, where the main focus of it was investing in Australian properties. Now, hands up who in this room has had any experience investing in Australian properties? Okay, so we're talking well over half the room. So you know what's happened to the market. You've seen the shifts that are taking place. So there's Scott, who one moment was having all this amazing success in Australia. Next thing, all of his clients weren't investing anymore. So when he joined the mentoring, he's like, well, what do I do about this? And the first thing we did wasn't start the waves. The first thing we did is saying, well, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be as an individual? And he thought about that for a moment, and he's like, well, I do want to be known in property, but I want to be known in successful property. I said, does it have to be Australia? He goes, no, it could be anywhere in the world, really. I said, right, well, now choose where in the world you'd really love it to be, and choose somewhere where the property market is booming. So he looks around for all the opportunities, and he comes back and says, America. I have no experience at all in America, but I decided America is the place I want to be. I said, all right, and what's the biggest value you have today? And he thought about that, and we talked about it, and it turned out it was his client base from the past in South Africa who had money, but at the moment weren't investing in Australia. We said, right, well, what would it take for them to invest in America? So he created triangulation. The way you create a triangulation when you don't even know about the market is you start by saying, well, what do I have of value myself? What do I have of value myself, which is over here? What's my value, which is personal value? What is the value that the customer wants, right? So this is customer value. And if I'm not able to deliver it based on my current product, which is my product value, because the product's died, and suddenly, all of a sudden, the third leg of the stool fell off, and the whole thing falls over, then how do I add a new product in here to make it work? And this becomes the most important thing. This is called a hinge, because when you've got a hinge, the door can swing. If there's no hinge there, the door falls off. So I said, what's your hinge? And another word for a hinge is something which is called your customer criteria, which is what's going to make them buy. So he went out there and he said, okay, what will going to make my customers buy from me? And when he sat with them and says, look, I know you've got money right now. What would it take for you to invest $100,000 with me? What kind of property return would you need to get? First of all, let's just talk about capital return. What would you need to see? Well, I need to see at least 25%, or I'm not interested because you used to give me that before. Okay, well, what about cash return? What kind of cash return do you want? Well, I know that there's places around the world, I hear friends, they're getting 15%. I don't want to get 4 or 5%, so I'd like to get 15%. If you can do that, I'll give you the 100,000. He said, what about risk profile? Well, I need to make sure that I can actually get it out in the right time, so you're going to have a risk profile where I know that it's at least capitalized on some capital, where I bought it undervalued, so as a result of that, I'm 100% covered. And the final thing is exit. I want to be in and out within 2 years if I can. He found out from every one of his investors what their specific criteria was, and he created his own. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, if you actually hear him when they say, how is it he's like richest man in the world, second richest man in the world. How does he go out and find the deals? How does he find the opportunities? And he says, and he's been quoted for saying this, he says, me and Charlie's the CEO, me and Charlie, we just sit around waiting for the phone to ring. And once in a while, it's not the wrong number. That's what he says. He just sits waiting for the phone. The reason he can do that is he's gone out to the market and he said so clearly, here is the customer criteria for our customers. Here's how we choose our customers. You've got to have a business which is at least in the billions. This is like how the billionaires think. You've got to have a business which is easy for us to understand. Ideally, it's family run. And you can prove it will be around in 50 years' time. Then we're interested. Right? So the only people that even call him, when it's not the wrong number, are the people who fit the criteria straight away. And the same way, what was happening here by having that customer criteria was it gave Scott a hinge which allowed him to go to America. He flew out to America. He met with a number of different partners. He said, these are the kind of properties I'm looking for. I've got several $1 million now committed in soft commitments where they've said, if you can find these deals, we're willing to put 100,000 in, 200,000 in. So he had the deals without the product, and then he went out and he spec'd the product based on that criteria, and he found a number of partners that could deliver on that based on his volume. He then came back, he said to those guys, okay guys, we've now got the deals, and as a result of that, he's just in the last 2 weeks done a tour in Australia where he sold 50 properties, and he's made himself several $1 million personally himself in an entirely new market, which he's been building for the last 6 months to allow him now to be back to millionaire mate status again in an entirely different way. This is about thinking globally, because it's easier today to actually create a global business than a local business. I define global, you can still run it here in Australia, it can still be with Australian customers, but a global business is one where, number one, you're learning from everywhere, and number two, you can be working from anywhere. Think about that. You are learning from everywhere, not just what's happening in Australia, but you're learning about all of the markets around the world, because of course now you're getting many reference points. But secondly, you can work from anywhere. From your home if you love your home, but from anywhere else in the world as well if you like to as well. And so that's one of the things that he now does, and more importantly, he then used the wave of a video where he put a video onto his two strategies I'll share here. One is the fact there's a video which has a play button, so obviously people press play on it. The second thing is that he doesn't have one opt-in, he has two opt-ins, because half the people that he had were responsive to the second one, which was a positive opt-in. 49% of the world's wealth is held in property for a free report on the 5 things you have to know to create wealth. Based on all these people basically being positive, the positive people clicked on the second one. But half the people we had were negative people, so they weren't even going to click on that because they didn't even believe they could make money in property anymore. So the first one, more than 80% of people who invest offshore lose money. For a free report on the 6 things you have to know to stop yourself from losing money, click on this one. So the ones who are negative would still click and give them the information. Do you think once he actually had the information in from these 2 opt-ins, he would then send something different to the negative people compared to the positive people? Of course, right? So he doubled up his sales just by doing that. And so when people say just have one opt-in, the world has changed. Having 2 opt-ins makes a much bigger difference, and at the same time, just having a video made a different difference. He went one step further after that, and he actually put his criteria down that he learned that people were looking for, and so he started actually selling based on the criteria of the property, not on the property itself. And as a result of that, he was like, rental yields, this is what he was now getting, 10 to 45%, 70% below peak market value. So you get the idea behind this. One other example, so you can kind of just see how this works. This is one from Australia. It's not about property. It's about sustainability, and it's about energy. So this is a couple that I work with that I started mentoring when they were really struggling with their solar business. So this is Lisa and Lachlan Lang, who came to our Fast Forward event that we just had a couple of days ago. And they had this thing called Sustainable Man, where in the boom times, they were selling loads of solar. And then along comes the government, as you know, and changes all the rebates. So suddenly, everyone that was incentivized to go for solar aren't going. And they came and joined my mentoring. They were like, Roger, what do we do? We're falling down a sinking ship. And I said, it's not the ship that's sinking. You've still got the surfboard. It's the wave that's ending. That's okay. Get the surfboard, get back for the next wave. So first of all, what's your surfboard? So your surfboard is your identity of who you're going to be, who you're going to be. So they really thought about that. They said, well, who am I going to be? In the future, what do I want to be known for? And just like Scott wanted to be known for being successful in property, they wanted to be known for making a difference in sustainability, in our environment. So they said, you know what, we don't want to give that up. And they were ready to jack it all in and go buy some business that had nothing to do with it. They thought, no, you know what, that is the thing, that's why we started this business, is because we wanted to make a difference. So we said, right, well now you know where you want to go, which is to make a difference. You want to get more specific. What kind of customers do you want to have? You get to choose your customers. You know, half of all our stress nowadays in business is that we just chose the wrong customer. So we're working with people that we really should be firing. And so they're there thinking, geez, you're right, we're working with people we don't necessarily want to work with. We want to work with families more. So we said, okay, well, what kind of business could you run that would allow that to happen, that's growing? And they came up with this. We came up with a name, which is called Eco Originals. It's basically now the most environmentally friendly nappies in Australia. They went through the whole process of actually creating the brand, of going out to China, of sourcing it, of saying, what would it take for us to have a criteria? In their case, the criteria was the most eco nappies you could have, whilst also at no extra cost than your average diapers or nappies that people would buy. And so by being really clear on what it was that they were offering, and they shared that out there, they've now got this entire business growing and going, which is just awesome. And as a result, they're back. Now here's what's interesting. As a result of detaching from the business that they had where they were stuck in it, the solar business then, as a result, is now run in a way which allows it to be much more efficient, because they're not the ones trying to grow it and build it. It's just they're running. And as a result, it's generated several $100,000 of extra cash flow, which they're now using in order for them to be able to grow Eco Originals and build it. And similarly, because they're selling based on the criteria instead of on the product, what they've been able to do is they've been able to actually pre-sell the first shipment by getting mums that are already keen on the idea, as you can see here, buying into the package so that they can actually have the shipment come their way. Richard Branson, he wants to go to outer space. Does he say, I'm just going to put millions and billions into my business to get into outer space? No. He says, look, this is what I want to do. Here's my vision. If you want to be part of this, $200,000 gets you to be one of the first people up into space. But he's got it so clear to say that it's worth something already, that people will come into it, that they're willing to buy into it straight away. I phoned them up. I phoned up Virgin Galactic. I was like, I want to find out what this thing's all about. So I phoned them up. It's so great. You should try phoning them up. You get on the phone, and they send you an email, first of all. It doesn't say, dear customer. It says, dear astronaut. That's really good. That's really good. And you get on the phone, and they're going, hi, can we help you? You say, yeah, I'm interested in going up to space. I hear it's $200,000. Yes, it is. How can I pay for that? Well, you could pay all in one. I go, okay, that's an option. If I was to pay $200,000 in cash, is there any other option? Yes, you could also pay in installments. So what installments do you have? Well, you could pay over 6 installments if you like, and that can go over the year. I say, so why wouldn't everyone just do that? Well, if you want to go first into space, then it's only the people that pay in full that will be in the first 100 people. After that, you have to queue up after 100, and then you're in 6 installments, and then they have another one which is like, over 3 years or so on, which is then further back as well. They've been so clear about the vision that they have, and then so clear about the what and the when for anyone who wants to be part of it, that as a result of that, they've now raised already over $200 million in cash to fund everything they're doing, just off people who are buying into that vision too. Your future is worth so much when you're clear about it. And when you're not clear about it, you can't get anywhere. If you're clear about where you're heading, I know, for example, later this week, I'll be in Perth, Australia, and then I'll be back in Bali. How can I know for sure I'm going to be in exactly the right spot in Perth in 3 days' time when we are on a planet which is spinning through this universe at hundreds of thousands of kilometers an hour, and where I could be on an infinite number of spots on this planet? How could I be so sure I'm going to be there? Because I'm going to be on a plane which is absolutely precise about when it takes off, about where it ends up, about when it ends up there, that I'll be on that plane. I don't wait and find a plane that may or may not get there. And in the same way, when you're clear about where you want to go, you'll be amazed at what people come onto your journey, what people come onto your plane as well. So that's my question for you right now. Really simple question, which is simple to ask, not easy to answer. Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? And think about it like this. Imagine that you actually achieved all the things you wanted to achieve. Imagine that you got to wherever is your perfect life. And imagine that you had achieved certain things and the value you delivered, that someone somewhere had created a Wikipedia page about you, and others had posted on it as well. And just like anyone out there that's achieved anything, when they get their Wikipedia page, it has a first paragraph at the top, which says, such and such is this and this and this and this. Well, that first paragraph, what would you want that first paragraph to say about you? I'm going to give you a few minutes to write down your paragraph about where you see yourself in your life. And I'm not going to ask you to do it yet. I'm going to ask you to think about it at this point. But just before you actually come up with it, I want to show you 2 little videos. So you've now got that as the assignment. Here's 2 little videos which are going to kind of just warm you up to it. First one is a video which is going to be released in this next month. And it's a video of my latest product, which is called the Genius Test, which is showing a map of the 4 sides of something I'm going to share with you, which is our GPS system. And I'm going to just show you the video here because it's an example of how to put a 2-minute video together with my best efforts on a product. And you'll see that in the video, there are a number of steps to it. One of the steps, these are the 3 simplest steps for any video. The first one is whatever is the problem, define the problem. What is the problem? What are you trying to solve? At least get everyone agreeing on the problem. The second thing is the promise. Well, are you going to solve the problem, right? And what's the benefit of solving that problem? And the third thing is the product, which is, okay, and how are you going to do it? So in a way, you've got the why. Why is someone even interested in this? Why is it even valuable? That's the problem, right? And then you've got the what, which is, what are you going to do about this? What's your solution? Then you've got the how, which is how you're going to do it. So someone goes, okay, I can buy into that. Right? If you don't have those 3, if you only got one of them, you're not going to get the same alignment. You can do that within several minutes. So I'm going to just share this video.
According to Einstein, you are a genius. And him, and her, and, well, all of them. Einstein said, everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go through its whole life believing that it is stupid. We're all born great at something, but as we grow up, we find out all the things we're not so good at. So we spend our life feeling bad about those things, working on our weaknesses, while we take our strengths for granted. But wait, how about him? And her? And them? They focused on the one thing they were great at. They went from ordinary to extraordinary. And you can too. Did you know there are 4 types of genius? And you're one of them. There's Dynamo Genius, who loves to create, Blaze Genius, who loves to connect, Tempo Genius, who loves to serve, and Steel Genius, who loves the details. Each has a different energy that links to the 4 seasons and 4 elements. Great minds from Confucius and Plato to Isaac Newton and Carl Jung studied these 4 types. Each has a different natural path, different passions, different strengths and weaknesses. Your winning formula is someone else's losing formula. You have a natural way to learn, to lead, to live, to love, a natural strategy that suits you in relationships, in your work, in social media, even in the design of your day. In fact, if you do anything that feels like hard work, you're already doing the wrong thing. When you know your genius, you can get in your flow. And when you know the genius of your friends, your workmates, your boss, children, family, you can appreciate them for what they are best at, and that brings out the best in them. As for the things you're not so great at, well, there's a genius in your network waiting to do those things for you, with half the time and double the happiness. So take the genius test, discover your genius, then find the genius of your friends and grow your social genius. It will help you to live the life you love and love the life you live. The genius test is free, and it will set you free.
Like that? So we each have a genius. We have something which most of the time we take for granted, and we're going to see how the genius shows up as we go through this morning and we go through the other waves. The genius is your surfboard. The genius is your surfboard. You surf it naturally. But for many of us, we've kind of abandoned our genius and gone on to the things that we're weak at, and as a result of that, we're trying to swim through the waves, wondering how to surf. I'm just going to give you a second video which just creates a flavor for your future. This just came out last week. It's called Field Trip. It's by Google. You can download it. It's on the iTunes store now. And the way it works is very simple. It's using GPS. And it's allowing you to walk around Melbourne, and it will pop up all the different sites of Melbourne. It will tell you things as you go, so you can kind of like use it as virtual reality. And so then you'll be able to see kind of like the image next to the building of like the museum, or now retail stores and so on. So, and again, you know, Google's got all this information anyway. They've just turned it into something graphical. But what I find really interesting is that you can see this is no different from any of the other apps you look at, where you've got a couple of screens you can see, but it doesn't create the emotion or the experience of what it really feels like to be on a field trip. That's why you're going to find that every single product and company out there today that you're buying anything from online, there's always a video there of some sort which actually does the job of explaining what this thing is emotionally or in human terms. That's what videos can do that reading can't. So here is the video about this field trip, and the reason I'm sharing it is, again, number one, so you can see how someone like Google puts a product together and turns it into a 2-minute video. But the second thing is think about your trip. Think about the journey you're about to write about who you're going to become. And think about what kind of emotion do you want that to stir in not just yourself, but your family, the people around you, who are also part of your journey as well. So imagine your field trip, your journey of where you're going being upstream. And imagine you being the bridge for whoever comes after you, where you're living a life by example. And today is the day that we actually figure out how we're going to get there. We're going to figure out how we're going to get there. If you can get anywhere, how are you going to make sure it's something that inspires you to be the person that you are choosing to be in the future? The 4 geniuses that we just mentioned are the 4 sides of that square there. You've got the north, south. This is a floor plan. We're looking down on the lighthouse now. North, south, east, and west. This one here is called the dynamo genius. You would have seen that one, the people who love to create. I can put it here as well and say, here's dynamo. Right? So this is the one which is on this side at the top. There's dynamo. And there are some people in this room who have very strong dynamo energy. That's your genius. Hands up, who are the creators, the stars, the mechanics in the room? Who do we have? Okay, there they are. Thank you. Those are the ones who've taken the test and they've come out as one of the profiles at the top here. We'll go into more on the profiles a little later, but they go into the top, which means that their strongest genius is the dynamo genius. They're great at starting things, terrible at finishing anything. Except the mechanics. Mechanics are good at that, but everyone else is like, yeah, we're starting new things all the time. You know, and that means you're great at starting even businesses or ideas, but you're terrible at running them. But you think you're good. I can say this, I'm a creator, and I can tell you, as a creator, a number of businesses I've started where you're really great at putting in the seed and putting on the light and looking at it, and you can see it grow. It's like, look, I've got a business now, I've got money coming in, fantastic. And what happens? Creators, they get this like thing that's growing, and they're like, wow, fantastic, and they pull it up to see how the roots are doing. It's like, it's not doing so well anymore. So there's many of us who are at this level here, dynamo genius. Some of us are much more on this side here. Think about these as seasons. These guys are great in the spring. Spring is the first season. So spring energy here is that spring. This is what actually is always about starting things up that are new. And great at spring energy, which is the spring at the beginning of the river that actually makes the water flow to begin with. But you can't get anywhere without summer. This is blaze energy, right? So this always leads to this. This is summer energy. And summer energy is all about people. This is this side here, blaze, which is a second genius. So some of you here have actually really strong blaze genius. Hands up the stars and the supporters and the deal makers in the room. Okay, great. A lot of them are here. And these are the people who love meeting people. You know, there's some of us in this room who actually don't really like meeting new people. I mean, if we have to do that, but really would rather just be with the people we know. But there are some people in this room who just love meeting people. They love meeting people, can't help meeting. They'll be the people meeting everyone today. They'll go through the whole week meeting people. They love meeting people every day, meeting people. They'll go through the whole week meeting people until they get to Saturday at the end of meeting all these people. And they'll look back at all the people they met. And they'll still have no idea why they met all those people. I don't know, I just met other people. It was all these people. Right? So this is a different kind of energy. Right? This is a different kind of energy, this blaze energy here. And the blaze energy will always then settle down into this one here. And when I say settle, we're now talking seasons, like autumn. You can feel it's different. This is tempo. But what's interesting about this, the kind of the settling, is that tempo also has an energy which the Chinese link to the 5 planets, which is how we now today have 7 days of the week with 5 of them being planets and the sun, Sunday, Monday, sun and the moon. But at the same time, they also link them to a particular element where they call this one wood, right? So wood energy. Wood is about being able to grow new things. It's always growing new things. But you need wood to turn into fire, right? So this is fire, this is warm energy. Without wood, if you don't have the wood, the fire ends up getting unfocused. So if someone here doesn't have a really great product or something to be able to market or share, then they're always going to end up getting unfocused, which is what happens very often with someone who's blaze energy. Or then you'd have someone like tempo, where it's now about settling things down, and this is going from fire to earth energy, where earth is a very, very different energy. That's the one which is here. And so we've got tempo, which is actually asking themselves a different question. Think about this like a brain. You've actually got, in your brain, 4 parts. You've got a frontal lobe, you've got a temporal lobe. Right? So this is temporal lobe, which is about senses, whereas this is about intuition. It's about the frontal lobe. And then you've got right brain, left brain. And so this one is much more the extrovert side. This is the summer side. And then this side is the winter side, which is what we call steel energy. By the way, the Chinese took their I Ching and then they turned it into cards. They turned it into games. They turned it into Go, which became chess in terms of the board, and they turned it into cards, which became our playing cards today. And we still have the same designs here for these. So for example, this one here, people with a head in the clouds as opposed to ear to the ground. Head in the clouds, this top one, is the clubs for clouds. It looks like a tree. So this is wood energy. So that's one here. And then you've got the opposite spades, which is spades, obviously, which is the earth. And then from these two, you then have what is the symbol for blaze, which is heart, which is people, and then obviously structure, which is diamond. So you've got all 4 of them there, and that leads to steel, those people who find people far too complicated, and so would rather just create a system. Hands up, those of us who are the deal makers, the tempos, deal maker, trader, and accumulator in the room right now. Who do we have in that category? Okay, great. So those are the people who are much more kind of grounded. And how about for those who are much more on the introvert side in terms of structure, which would be the accumulators, mechanics, and lords? Who do we have? Okay, quite a few of them as well, right? Find people very, very, it's like, why bother with the people? Just give us the data, give us some information. It's like, well, these people here can't help but make things simple. They love making things simple, don't want to make things complicated. People on this side, the idea of making things simple is like, well, I don't know how to do that because I can't help but make things complicated, right? But that's okay. There's an opposite way to do things when it comes to the way we're going to create our wealth, and we're going to see how that works as well. But right now, realizing that this is a circle that gets to steel, which is the metal energy. So this is winter, and this is the one which in China they call metal. And of course you could say, well, between those 4, you've got a cycle of the seasons, right? But the answer is the 4 on their own are no good if you're just going round at the bottom level. You're not going anywhere. Now, by the way, in a river that happens too. If you're moving really, really fast and you're trying really, really hard, but you find yourself coming back to the same place every day. Like in a river, that's called an eddy current. Eddy currents just go round and round and round. That's all they do. Just go round and round and round. You know you're in an eddy current in life. Because when you're in an eddy current in life, what happens is you wake up tomorrow and you find yourself in exactly the same life you're in today. And it's not your ideal life. It's just the same one again. It's just Groundhog Day. It's like again. It's like, why would you do that? And that's the point about how it turns into a spiral with the 5th thing. And the 5th thing, which is the one up here, is the one which in China, the element is water. And the water energy isn't even the season. It's the thing that connects all of them. It connects them all in the same way that you're going from genius to genie, You go into something which is in the magic lamp, it's outside of it, in the same way that in this room, if you were 100 years ago before electricity, people think there's some magic that's actually making all these lights shine. We know there's not, because we know the science behind it, and we know actually what's going on is they're connected. They're connected to what? They're connected to flow. They're connected to a high level. They're connected to something which actually allows them to go on. And if a light goes off, the first thing we do is not replace it. The first thing we do is check if it's connected. So there are some of you in this room where your light has gone off because you're really not enjoying what you're doing. You'd really rather it was very different. You don't want the struggles. You don't want the stresses. But there's a part of you that feels, well, maybe that's because of me. Maybe the reason I'm off is because I myself am wrong, or there's something that I should be doing, or I'm not good enough. And when you actually realize that the first thing you do with a light is not go and just basically replace the light, the first thing you do is connect it back in, you realize, that's not what it is. I'm just disconnected from the flow because the wave stopped. I'm up on the beach. I'm beached. I'm going to get back in and get back on another wave. And then suddenly it all starts to turn on again. So this one here, the water energy, in the West, we call it spirit, because there is not a single entrepreneur that does not get there without entrepreneurial spirit. It's something which is at the next level. And you can actually find each of these because they find their way around here. The spirit's at the top here as well. That's the spirit. And to get up the ladder, as we'll see, there are some very, very specific things when it comes to our questions. We're going to see, for example, that everyone on this level here, the wood energy, because by the way, you need water to turn into wood. So a lot of us are trying to create the wood. Wood turns into fire. Fire settles to earth. Earth, you can find the metal. That's gold. That's alchemy. This is the alchemical circle that the Chinese created that then found its way to the West and became part of the whole Hermetic philosophy. It's what Newton studied, and it's been my life's work to look and bring it back to something that we can use today. This one up here, the water, is the most important thing to be able to create wood. And each of these is linked to a question. And the question here is the question what? The people at the top are great at asking the question what. They're asking the question what all the time. These people here are much better at asking the question who, which is why they're so good with people. So you ask the question what first, that then leads us to the who. From the who, we get to the when, which is why these guys are so good at timing and sensory. This is the when. And from the when, we then get to the how. Because of course, most of us try and start with the how, but the how's the wrong question to begin with. If I go, I'm going to climb Everest, and then someone says how, and I try and explain how when I've never climbed it before, I've lost all credibility. But if I say, I'm going to climb Everest, and they say, who are you going to climb with? I say, someone who's climbed 100 times before. And they say that basically when we should climb is in about 2 years after I've done the training, and how we're going to do the training is the same way he's trained with other people over the last several years to get them to the top. And now I've got credibility of the how, because it's not my how. It's the how of the person who knows how to do it. So if you go around the right cycle, you always find the gold, but you start by having the wood turn to fire, turn to earth, into gold. And this cycle, what you're going to see as we go through, is the biggest thing stopping us. We're asking the wrong questions in the wrong order, which is why we keep getting stuck with the wrong answers or no answer at all. But of course, the biggest one of all is when you go what, who, and then when, and then how. The biggest thing of all is forgetting to ask this question, which is why we go around in an eddy current. And of course, this question, the spirit question, is the question why. Like, why are you here? Are we here for a bigger reason? Why are you on this journey? Why are you on this planet at this point, at the beginning of the new millennium, when we have the greatest challenges and the greatest opportunities of any generation ever in humankind, during the greatest shift of wealth that this planet has ever seen to this part of the world? Why are you here right now? Because there could be a reason for it. When we start to shift, we change the vibration as to where we are and how we want to live our life, and these questions then start to shift everything. You've got a genius on each of these. We all have the why. Right? So we all have one of these which we're strongest at, and then we all have this that we connect to, because that water is the one that actually vibrates all of them. So my question to you is, with your questions and with your genius, think about whether or not you have, if you're at the top genius here, been putting a lot of your time in being creative effectively, which means you've got teams to support you. Think if you're more on this side, whether you have really been doing the things you love, which has actually been connecting to people, spending your time with people, not on the opposite side over here. A number of people I know who are really strong at this side, and they go off and try and do internet marketing or something which is totally not where they should be, when they should have other people working on that side. And so as a result, you get out of flow. Or those of you who are here who like keep on trying to start a new business when in fact you could so easily connect with others, where you are able to bring your sensory side and your skills to that team. Or where you're on this side here, where you are always really great on the system side. A number of people I know who just look at things like whether it's network marketing or whether it's something like trading, and they go, oh, I really like the intellectual exercise of that. I can see how the numbers stack up. And then suddenly they put themselves in a situation where they've got to go out hanging out with people all the time, which they really would rather not do. And then thinking, well, why is this not working for me? It must be me. And it's not you. It's you've just got into the wrong way for your flow. So when you're actually thinking in this way, think about what percentage of your time right now goes towards your genius, for you to learn how to surf your board better, and how much you might want it to change after today by just stopping the things that you actually don't enjoy doing anyway, because they're the opposite of what you should be doing. The opposite. Everyone try this for a moment. Fold your arms. Fold your arms. Okay, with your arms folded, you would have noticed you just did something naturally. Because if you look around to the people around you, you'll see that some of them have actually folded their arms differently from you. Have a look around, see how they folded their arms. You see some are left over right, some are right over left. You're the opposite. Okay, on the count of 3, do the opposite. 1, 2, 3. yeah. Half the people in the room are like, yeah, 1, 2, 3. You went back the same way, right? But some of you are doing the opposite. If you actually are doing the opposite, does it feel more comfortable? No, it feels unnatural, right? Okay, shake it out, shake it out. If you're doing anything at all that feels like hard work, you're already doing the wrong thing. We get conditioned to do this. When we're kids, we don't. We do what we love naturally, and we've got so much more self-confidence, we've got so much more sense of play. And then we end up going to school or going to a job where we're just picked up for our weaknesses, the things we're not so strong at. You know, you get 3 A's, you get 2 B's, you get 1 C. Your parents go, wow, fantastic, you did great on the A's, get someone else to do your C. Yeah, let's go work on the things you love doing. They go, no, they go, what do you get a C for? What do you get a C for? Work hard on the C. And you're working on the things that you find hardest, and then you go through life thinking that's what work's meant to feel like. All the most successful people in the world do what they love best, and they've just put the strategies in place to have other people do the things that you're not so good at, just like we said in the Genius video. So here's what I'd like you to do, just for a moment, not for a long period, but just for a moment, reflect at the moment at what percentage of time you currently invest in your genius and what you love to do, and whether or not you'd like to make a commitment to double up that time through the strategies we go through today.